Hello and welcome to Ron Whitlock Reports. Today, a candidate forum. The position, Cameron County Judge, the 12th biggest county, population-wise, in the entire state of Texas. Current sitting judge, Carlos Cascas, the incumbent in his 4th year as judge, served 12 years as commissioner on the Cameron County Commissioner's Court. Judge Cascas, welcome.
Thank you, Ron.
Our candidate forum. Sitting to my left in his 8th year, and perhaps, I guess, final year as County Commissioner, you're hoping to step up to the job currently held by Carlos Cascas as Judge John Wood. Now, John, you and the judge here have been allies many times, adversaries in some cases on the voting pattern historically on the court. But I see the collegiality working rather well. The relationship is good on the campaign stump. Tell me about that.
Well, I personally don't think that things need to get to a point to where they're adversarial. That's not good for either of us. It's certainly not good for the people of the county. We have worked well together on many issues, and we'll probably continue to do that. There are differences of opinions, there are differences of ideology, and I think that we generally work those out pretty well. I vote my way sometimes, and he votes the way he believes is correct sometimes. And that's part of being independent and working together to get over those issues and move forward with the other issues that we face.
Judge Cascas, not a lot of name calling, I notice on the campaign trail between you two.
Well, not yet. I don't anticipate any.
That may change on this program.
Well, no, I don't think so. I mean,
We take the gloves off here today.
No, you know, I think politics is one thing, and personality is something else, and going about your daily business, you know, trying to, you know, do a job and raise families and you get people to work. We haven't had that, you know, that infighting. I think some of our campaign workers appear to get more passionate about these races than we as candidates do. And sometimes you got to temper them down a little bit, saying, "Hey, it's only a political race. It's not that big a deal. You know, somebody's going to win, someone's got to lose, and you know, whomever wins moves forward. Whoever loses just probably goes on to do other things."
In your race against Gilberto Hinojosa, I talked to him a few days before the election, and he said, "I'm leaving it up to the Lord, and whatever happens will be great." And I asked him here just not too long ago, a few months ago, after he'd been off the court about 4 years, and he said, "Boy, the Lord bless me, having me lose. I'm on the Democratic National Committee, have more fun than you could have ever imagined." So it's a good attitude that you both seem to have. But it is right. I noticed that that those on the campaign, your staff and those volunteers who really get out there and knock on doors, they're the ones who seem to lose it more than any other. Jobs, jobs, jobs. That seems to be the primary thing people want to know more and more about. What will you do, if re-elected judge, to try and bring jobs and economic opportunity to Cameron County?
Well, I think that there's a lot of issues that are facing Cameron County today. Everything from health care, veterans issues, economic development, job opportunities. You know, I've maintained that the role of government is not to create jobs. And when government tells you they're creating jobs, the only jobs we create are our 15 or 1,600 employees that we have. And even then, we don't create those. Taxpayers create those. You know, my vision is to continue working on a regional level. I believe that we have
jobs.
Well, to create jobs and in terms of economic development. I mean, I think the job creation comes by maintaining, you know, reasonable tax rates, keeping your infrastructure where it needs to be, whether it's
not being so parochial about Brownsville versus Harlingen versus McAllen.
Well, you can't. You can't. We've had this. You know, we've had these discussions before, and I think that.
So, John, your reaction to what you would do if elected to try and bring economic opportunity to Cameron County?
I think jobs are extremely important. Our community, the county.
How would you do that?
Well, I've had a lot of experience in working with economic development in the past years. From the time I moved to Brownsville 40 years ago, being involved in economic development. And certainly as a realtor, I've worked with lots of companies looking at coming in the area, and many of them have relocated to the area. I have traveled for many different companies to encourage their workforce to come into our area because they need a different dynamics from where they're at oftentimes. And I believe that Cameron County is the place for them to come. Our population is growing. We've got a tremendous workforce here. They're trainable, they want to work, they want to do better for their families and for their grandkids and their kids. And we need to be coalescing these economic development agencies throughout the valley to bring jobs to our area. And I think we can do that. I can do that.
Now, support of UTB TSC has got to be critical for economic development. That college is under attack by the budgetary process in Austin. Juliet and her staff have been required to cut almost 10% out of their budget already going into the session. The session, when it opens in January in Austin, at this point in time, they're asking higher ed across the state to cut another 10%. That cannot hold for the border where we've got increasing enrollment as opposed to north of I-10 where they've got declining enrollment. Do you fellas agree?
Well, I think we have some challenging times ahead of us. You know, our budget's been cut. You know, last year we cut $3.5 million. This year we cut again. There's got to be a mechanism in place. There's got to be a balance in place. I believe that sometimes you've got to look at cuts. The other alternative is to raising fees or raising taxes, which that's never popular, and it's hard to convince the electorate. You know, well, like we were at an interfaith forum yesterday, and everything that the interfaith wants to do is money oriented. Everything costs money. So if you're going to raise taxes, it's hurting the very the poor. So I believe that education is critical. I believe that higher ed, not only UTB TSC, but South Texas Community College, TSTC in Harlingen, and all these other campuses that are out there need to really look at their budgets and trim what they need to, what they believe they need to trim out.
So if you're elected county judge, what would you do to help UTB TSC, TSTC, SEC, the other colleges in the Rio Grande Valley region, border region, to try and go to Austin and lobby to try not make these cuts so egregious as is anticipated?
The higher education system that we have in the Valley is extremely important for the educating of our youth and the older folks too. The experience that I have, I know when UTB was just TSC and the legislature was looking at the partnership, at that time I traveled to Austin several times to testify on behalf of that partnership, to make it come together. And I think we need to be spending more time in Austin because personally I don't think we've received what we should be getting in our area, south of I-10, south of Nueces River, for the educational process that we have in our area. We have lots of needs. We've got low educational standards here. We need to bring those up, and I know everyone's working to do that. As elected officials in the county and the city and the elected officials on these boards, we all need to be working together and going to Austin and requesting and requiring and working with our legislators up there to see to it that we get better educational facilities here, which oftentimes means more money to provide the programs and the degrees and to provide the staff and the personnel to be able to do that.
Now, one of the issues on the campaign trail is the fact that you're a Democrat and you're a Republican. Now, each of you have connections into the Capitol. Being led by a Republican leadership, would that give the current sitting county judge Koskis, who is a Republican and has had great ties to the governor and that sort of thing, the speaker and the lieutenant governor, would that give him an advantage, or how would you counteract that advantage or disadvantage if elected?
Well, I've been involved in government for a long time, just as my opponent has. I've traveled a lot to Austin in the past. I've developed some good relationships, not only with the elected officials there, but also with staff members there. Oftentimes the staff members and the committees that are set up and the commissions that are set up are the ones that operate the state government on a day-to-day basis.
So you don't think being a Democrat would be a disadvantage?
I don't think it would.
Judge Koskis.
Well, I think it's apparent that it is going to be a disadvantage. I think that things just don't happen by accident. A few years ago, I was reading back in some of the archives, the Commissioner's Court wanted to hire lobbyists to help promote the agenda at the state level. Because the then county judge said, we don't have a voice. We need to hire some lobbyists. Well, that didn't go through. So I am a lobbyist for Cameron County. I'm an advocate for Cameron County. The $160 million that we've received over the last 6 months, 5 months, has not happened by accident because I have good relationships with Austin, with TxDOT. And yeah, you can know them and you can break bread with them and have coffee with them, but at the end of the day, they're going to look at who's in control, and those political relationships are very, very important.
But Judge and Commissioner, isn't it logical that if economic development is important and education is important, that the county would take a leadership role in some form of lobbying initiative during such a legislative session when you've got a $22 billion budgetary shortfall? And we'll get the answer when we come back, so don't touch that remote. Welcome back to Ron Whitlock Reports, our candidate forum focusing on the judgeship of Cameron County, Texas. Judge Carlos Cascas, and Commissioner John Wood. Went to the break. Commissioner Wood, should the county advocate more for helping in lobbying efforts at the Capitol going into this legislative session with potentially a $22 billion budgetary shortfall?
Definitely. We've done that in the past, and we need to continue to do it. Judge Coscos just mentioned the $160 million that had come down. A lot of that came down to the county for projects that have been ongoing and been working on as long as 10 years ago. For example, the West Rail relocation. Money that had been committed and committed and committed, and now we're ready to make the omelet, to actually serve the omelet. So the money's actually coming down. Some of it was American Recovery and Reinvestment Act monies for State Highway 550. So these are things.
Budgetary item be increased then going into the session, knowing how critical it's going to be?
Well, I think it's
Can
going
you take us away?
Well, it's gonna be
May add
critical.
additional taxes.
You know, I think it's interesting that these projects have been on the books for a long time, but they couldn't close a deal. You know, the monies were committed, but they were never funded. And so it took basically, and I think, you know, the best testimony you can get is talking to Commissioner Garza, because he'll tell you what it took to go up, because he was our TxDOT liaison, and he can tell you best what it took to get these monies. You know, commitments were there, but they never could get them funded. So I like to tell people this thing, that yeah, they've been on the books for a long time, but nobody could close the deal. So I became county judge.
And then you can't close a deal till you have all the paperwork in place. It's like making an omelet again. It takes a chicken, if you're going to make a ham and cheese omelet, a chicken, a pig, and a cow. And it goes through a long process. In projects like this, you've got to get all the processes done, environmental issues, permits, federal, state, all the different permits done. It takes time to do that. It took 5 years to get the presidential permit for the West Rail. It's taken another 5 years to finalize the Coast Guard permit, which is the last one we need, with the diplomatic papers from both Mexico and the U.S. So, you know, it's time for them to happen, and it's happening. I was the TxDOT liaison when we established the Cameron County Regional Mobility Authority. You know, that has provided a lot of the money that's doing the projects we're seeing done right now.
Now, the Schlitterbahn Water Park opened over 10 years ago on South Padre Island. At the time, at time Commissioner's Court made them lower all of their rides to such a height that some condo owners to the north of Schlitterbahn could have a vision unimpaired from their condo to those ships coming and going out of the waterway coming into the Port of Brownsville, Port Isabel. So on that particular basis, they limited to a degree the potential success of Schlitterbahn. Schlitterbahn at this point in time is paying what? A percentage of the gross, 2-3%, something along that line.
It's a fixed fee or an
One or the other,
override.
depending on the volume. So at this point, Schlitterbahn wants to improve, they want to expand, and what's the Commissioner's Court going to be under your leadership on how to deal with Schlitterbahn, because there has been a move or a discussion to try and increase their percentage rather than realizing that if Schlitterbahn makes more money, the county's automatically going to get an increase.
You know, we're always looking for ways to maximize, you know, the revenue potential within our park system. We will be negotiating with Schlitterbahn. A little bit premature to give out really what we're going to talk about with them. You know, they've been a great partner, you know, to Cameron County. They've been able to provide a lot of additional revenues that we've been able to put back into the park and surrounding parks. So I'm looking forward to continuing that relationship with them. And at the end of the day, we'll work it out.
Meaning you're a supporter of Schlitterbahn.
Absolutely.
You don't want to do anything to impede Schlitterbahn.
Well, but at the same time, everything's got to be treated arm's length. And so, you know, if they make money, we make money. It's just a matter of just trying to negotiate the best deal, you know, for us. And they have to be in a position to make money as well. So I'm sure when the time comes, we will work out a good agreement.
Schlitterbahn has become the #2 destination point when people come to South Padre Island. They're coming to the beach, #1, #2 on the list, they're going to Schlitterbahn. So you supporter of Schlitterbahn, where do you stand on this issue of renegotiation?
Schlitterbahn's a great asset for our area. I know my kids and our grandkids go out there quite often. It's a great asset, and it is a big input into the county coffers through the Parks Department, which is an enterprise fund. Without those monies, there would be a lot less that we can do. And I realize that encouraging them and helping them to expand and helping them to grow their business is going to in turn help us. You know, we don't need to be killing the goose that laid the golden egg, and they're one of the gooses out there that works real hard for us and brings in not only tourism that spend the night in hotels and buy gasoline and go to grocery stores and restaurants. That's other consequences, unintended consequences maybe, or important assets that we get out of Schlitterbahn being here. So we need to be working with them very closely to see to it that the county's treated fairly and that they're treated fairly so that we can improve everything for everybody here.
Especially as you see the beach continuing to erode, and not being rebuilt. Maybe Schlitterbahn's the only thing left.
Well, let's hope not.
On that issue, what could you do if elected judge, what could you do if re-elected judge to try and deal with the continuing problem with beach erosion?
Well, there's got to be a long-range plan to address that. There's got to be, I mean, this is a very expensive endeavor. You know, every time we get tropical storms or hurricanes, it just crucifies that beach. So it's going to take really literally hundreds of thousands of dollars to keep maintaining and renourishing that beach. And that's got to be a federal issue and a state issue and a local issue. We all have to work together, try to get the monies that are necessary. The island cannot do it by themselves based on the amount of money that they collect. So we're going to have to pony up, help them in some way, advocate at the state level and at the federal level for beach renourishment. Governor Patterson, Commissioner Patterson is a big advocate of beaches, of renourishment programs, and I'm working directly with him to see what we can do and what he can do through his department.
We'll get Commissioner Wood's response when we come back. So don't touch that remote. Welcome back to Ron Whitlock Reports, focusing on the campaign between the sitting county judge in Cameron County, Carlos Cuscus, and his challenger, current Commissioner John Wood. Now, when we went to the break, we were talking to the sitting judge about beach erosion and what you could do if elected to try and deal with the issue of the beach continuing to erode on South Padre Island. It being number one, number two being Schlitterbahn, and why people go to South Padre Island in the first place.
We spoke about Schlitterbahn, and as far as beach erosion, I know that the town of South Padre Island currently is applying for funding to do a beach erosion plan. And it's going to take quite a bit of funding just to get the plan done. I know they're doing that because just last Thursday, I wrote a letter in support of their application for the monies to get that plan put together. Once they have a plan put together, I'm not sure that it's necessary that the county do their own plan and South Padre Island do their plan separately. We need to be cooperating with the town of South Padre Island to get the plan put together, because the erosion is an issue that not only affects, it doesn't stop at the city limits of South Padre Island, it goes on up into the county area.
Additionally, the beach on South Padre Island is Hardington's beach, it's McAllen's beach, it's Raymondsville's beach. It's all the communities in the valley where people stay, shop, then go to South Padre
It's
Island
Texas's
to the beach, and then go
beach.
back. And Texas's
It's
beach.
Texas's beach.
So what's Texas going to do? Because Texas has a big $75,000 ad in Reader's Digest, and they're showing South Padre Island beach. So if it's eroding, then what can your friend the governor do to try to help stop that erosion and rebuild it?
And again, I think the state of Texas has a vested interest in this beach.
Absolutely.
Just like everybody else along the coast.
Yeah.
But the beach erosion is not just happening here, it's happening up and down the coast. So it's going to be my role to talk to my friend the governor and lieutenant governor and just convince them that we need the money here. It's in Texas's best interest to continue to rebuild, renourish on a regular basis. It can't be a one-shot deal. It's got to be a perpetual renourishment. This beach erodes every single day. So, if you go in and you replenish it, you're going to be back in the same boat a year from now. So there has to be a sustainable and a viable revenue source that renourishes that beach on a regular basis.
Quick question. Would you support an increase in taxes for Cameron County taxpayers?
To do what?
Raise their taxes for any reason?
I
Would you be opposed to a tax increase?
No, I'm not opposed to tax increases. We've raised the tax rate in the last 4 years a net of 1.5 cents per $100 valuation, because we needed to do after we saw the cuts that we had to make. We've increased bridge tolls. Sometimes, unless you're willing to make additional cuts or lay people off, you may not have a choice but to raise the tax rate by a nominal amount.
Commissioner?
Raising taxes is the last thing we need to go to. Certainly in economic times like this, it's difficult for everybody right now. And raising their taxes just puts a greater burden on them. We need to be being more efficient. We need to be looking outside the county and outside the state and outside the federal government for more funding to come in to take care of some of the issues that we have here. And I think we qualify for lots of those. If we can put a grants writer in the county judge's office that can look for grants, that comes in and helps offset some of our costs, we need to be doing that. And we haven't been doing that for 4 years.
Border security, a big issue. Perry's coming down all the time. A lot of people on the national scene coming down to the border region saying we're insecure at the border. What would you do if reelected, you do if elected, to try and make the border more secure?
The border security is a very important issue, and as you say, we are starting to see spillover here. Some of the issues that need to be taken care of are the way our border crossings are developed, the way they're created right now, and the way they're manned. We need to do some improvement there. A lot of that has to do with federal funds that need to come to our area to change those up. There are some areas of the crossings that just really do not lend themselves at all to being able to inspect southbound traffic going across the river. A lot of it's going
1 minute
over
left
there.
in this segment. As chairman of the Border Security Council, you can learn a lot about border security. What else would you do if reelected?
Well, I've got the experience sitting on DPS for 2 years and Board Security Council for a year. I predicted this spillover violence well over 2 years ago. I predicted what was going to occur, and I was somewhat chastised by local officials for overreacting. Well, we're starting to see that, and you know, the southbound surveillance, you know, that to me, that is something that has to be done. The border mayors have now jumped on board saying, hey, we want, you know, southbound surveillance. There's a way to do it. Southbound surveillance has to be an integral part in border security.
Stop those guns, stop that money coming back in.
Stop the currency. That's how it's going over.
Main thing. We'll be back in a moment. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the wrap-up segment of Ron Woodlock Reports. Our candidate forum, race Cameron County Judge. Judge Koskis, Commissioner Wood, TxDOT has continued to be pushed throughout the eons of time to create and connect the interstate from I-37 Corpus all the way to the Port of Brownsville. Still hasn't been done, still hasn't been done, still hasn't been done. What could you do if elected county judge to try and push through that interconnectivity, getting the interstate to the Port of Brownsville from north?
The biggest obstacle there, of course, is the funding to create the areas that are limited access and restricted access around a couple, Benketti and a couple other areas between here and Corpus Christi. That funding, that money has to be raised to be able to do that.
So a toll road is...
Now, whether that's going to be toll roads in those areas, for those who want to use toll roads, there'll always be another access for people to go through that don't want to pay the fee. But that's going to need to happen in order to be able to create the connectivity that we do need to be able to make this a true interstate highway.
An interstate connection to the Port of Brownsville could be a boom for economic development, correct?
It's going to happen. You know, we just secured $37 million, $34 million to make some enhancements outside of Cameron County that is needed in order to continue the process of the interstate highway. So that's a type of leadership that I bring. They've been trying to receive this money, get this money for a long, long time. You know, again, we go to TxDOT, we basically plead and you know, present our case, and we got the money awarded not too long ago.
$37 million just came in to do SH 550, which is the connection from 511 actually to the port. That was American Reinvestment Recovery Act money, stimulus money that came from the federal government.
Veterans Bridge got to be expanded to create more and quicker truck traffic, especially with just-in-time delivery to the maquiladoras. You support it? You support it? Expansion of the Veterans Bridge?
It's already on it's in the works to be expanded already by 4 lanes.
And I was fortunate enough to be in Mexico City presenting the issue to the Mexicans so that they would do their half of the bridge, because we had already planned, the county had already planned years ago to do our half of the bridge. But being able to present it to them at the appropriate time to where it fell into their financial aspects is extremely important. And I was very, very fortunate to be there to present it to them, and they bought on it, and it's going to be expanded. We're in the process of hopefully breaking ground for January, February this coming year.
Thank you, Judge Koskis, for coming and
Thank you, Ron.
appearing on our
Appreciate it.
telecast here today.
Ron, thank you.
Commissioner Wood. God bless you both in your campaign and offering yourself up for public service. It is a noble cause. Now, don't touch that remote. Another edition of Ron Woodlock Reports is up next, so stay tuned for another important election special.
I'm John Wood. I know that many families are having difficult times right now. The economic situation is not good in the nation, and it's certainly not good in Cameron County. I believe that we can do a lot better in Cameron County to take care of some of the problems that we have. Part of it would be economic development. Bring good quality, good paying jobs to our area. We have the people that can take care of those jobs, that can do the jobs. We need to work hard to bring economic development and jobs to our area. We also need to be concerned about the spillover of the violence from Mexico. We're seeing that come about now. We need to be ready to address that. We need to work with our federal and state governments to take care of that issue. We also have other issues that we need to take care of. One, we all are suffering and we don't need additional taxes forced upon us in order to be able to operate the government. We need good, efficient government. I will be there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, working as a full-time county judge to see to it that the county gets what it needs, that we have the opportunity to bring funding in to take care of us.